Buzz Aldrin was the first man to walk on the Moon. Buzz Aldrin is a retired astronaut from the United States who is most known for being the second human to walk on the Moon as part of the Apollo 11 mission. In his career, he did far more than this. Buzz Aldrin is the final member of the Apollo 11 mission to survive. Buzz Aldrin was born in New Jersey on January 20, 1930. Edwin Eugene Aldrin Jr. was his given name when he was born. His parents, Edwin Sr. and Marion, however, nicknamed him Buzz. This was due to Faye's inability to say the word brother, and instead kept saying Buzzer. Buzz was coined as a result of the nickname. Aldrin was an excellent student who excelled in the classroom. He was also a fantastic athlete, excelling in the pole vault and track and field. While his father wanted Buzz to join the Navy, it became clear that he suffered from severe seasickness. He spoke with his father and asked to enter the United States Military Academy to fly planes, which was his true desire. Buzz Aldrin served in the military before becoming an astronaut. He joined the United States Air Force and graduated first in his class. This meant he could pick and choose which planes to fly and which missions to accept. Buzz's father wanted him to fly bombers because he felt it would help him develop his leadership qualities. Aldrin, on the other hand, preferred to fly fighters because they were more maneuverable in the air, faster, and a lot more fun to fly. After serving in the Korean War and flying over 70 flights over enemy territory, Aldrin returned to university to earn his degree. He was a standout both professionally and intellectually. As a result, he was resolved to pursue his dream of joining NASA and sneaking into space. The United States and the Soviet Union competed in space for most of the 1960s. Aldrin applied to NASA in 1962 but was turned down because he had never been a test pilot. When another group of possible astronauts was chosen in 1963, 1,000 hours of flight time was required rather than having been a test pilot. Aldrin had logged nearly 2,500 hours in the air. Following his selection, Aldrin was assigned a specialty, mission planning. He was the Gemini 12 Mission S pilot and worked for more than 5.5 hours outside of a spacecraft. Aldrin was chosen in 1969 to pilot the lunar module of Apollo 11, which would see humans step foot on the Moon for the first time. On July 16, 1969, Apollo 11 launched for the Moon, with over 1 million spectators watching from the launch pads surrounding beaches and roadways. When they arrived at the Moon, Aldrin was in charge of giving the order to descent. On July 20, 1969, they arrived on the Moon. Buzz Aldrin was the first person to perform a religious service on the Moon, though he kept it a secret. He had communion and read from the Bible. In addition, he was the first person to urinate on the Moon. When you have to go, you have to go. When Neil Armstrong was on the Moon's surface, he was in charge of the camera the majority of the time. The majority of the images depicting an astronaut are of Buzz Aldrin. Armstrong appears in only 2 images. It was time to return to Earth after walking on the Moon, collecting lunar rock samples, and planting the American flag. On July 24, 1969, Aldrin went down in the Pacific. The mission lasted 195 hours, 18 minutes, and 35 seconds. After spending 21 days in quarantine after landing, Aldrin joined in a ticker-tape parade before attending a state dinner in their honor, where he was awarded the Presidential Medal of Freedom by President Richard Nixon. A crater and an asteroid have been named after Aldrin. Aldrin wanted to be the Air Force's Commandant of Cadets, but he was defeated by a former Air Force classmate. He didn't have the formal status, but he did have the honor of having traveled in space. As a result, many members of the United States Air Force deferred to him for counsel, direction, and commands. During his post-NASA military career, Buzz Aldrin began to suffer from stress and displayed signs of depression. He felt bad about becoming famous following the Moon landing and struggled to deal with the media attention. In the early 1970s, mental illness was still stigmatized, which could have ended his career. As the Apollo program came to an end, Aldrin chose to retire and live a regular civilian life. After such a pioneering position in NASA and the military, Aldrin struggled to adjust to regular life. He tried to sell vehicles but failed miserably. He also continued to suffer from depression. At the age of 86, Aldrin became the oldest person to reach the South Pole in 2016. He'd just returned from a trip to the North Pole in 1998. Buzz Aldrin is largely viewed as a true American hero and pioneer. His accomplishments are outstanding, and he still believes in the space program today as an outspoken supporter of future Mars missions.